After coming back from work, my husband hugged me and froze. He pointed at my shirt and said, "What is this?" He looked pale. "What is what?" I asked. "Don't you notice?" Soon, I noticed it too, and my jaw dropped. 12 days later, his mother watched a video and started screaming. When Jake came home from work, he dropped his keys into the ceramic bowl by the door, called out my name, and wrapped his arms around me, same as always. Except it wasn't. Because this time, he froze. Just like that. As if someone hit pause in the middle of his breath. I felt it immediately. His arms stiffened. Not like he was hugging me, but like he was holding a ticking bomb. He pulled back and stared at my shirt. "What's this?" he asked, barely above a whisper. He was looking at it like it was the first time he'd ever seen it, like I'd walked out in a firefighter's uniform or someone else's lingerie. "What is what?" I asked, trying to find some logic in the moment. "You don't smell it." I pulled the collar to my face, inhaled, and then I froze too. It was a scent. Masculine, sharp, lingering. Not Jake's cologne, and definitely not my laundry detergent. It was cologne with strong notes of owns a sports car, chugs energy drinks, and yells into his Bluetooth. One of those smells you can't unsmell. But I had just taken this shirt out of the closet, just now. I started to explain, but Jake had already turned away and walked to the shower without a word. I stood in the kitchen staring at nothing, like the answer might be written in the air. The shirt was clean. It had been hanging in my closet all week. I even remembered when I ironed it. And I sure as hell hadn't doused it in some other man's cologne. But someone else could have. Someone who had access to our house. Which meant Carol, Jake's mom, the HOA sweetheart, queen of passive-aggressive remarks, master of the phrase, "no offense, but..." She'd been here that morning, said she wanted to check the filter under the sink. More accurately, she volunteered herself for the task. Called while Jake and I were getting ready for work. "I'll just pop in real quick and take a look at the dishwasher. You said it's making that weird sound, right?" "Sure," I'd said. "The spare keys under the doormat, same as always." How sweet of us. How stupid. I had a choice. Pretend nothing happened. Convince myself it was random, or... No. This wasn't the first time. It wasn't the first time her visits left behind. Traces. A spoon left in the wrong place. A blanket folded the wrong way. Once, I found one of her signature sticky notes in the kitchen. "Try keeping the sugar out of white, better for your figure. Hugs, Mommy Carol," I laughed back then, politely, and tossed it in the trash. But I wasn't laughing now, because now my clothes smelled like a stranger. I walked into the bedroom, opened the closet. My clothes weren't the way I'd left them. Folded wrong. Shifted. I ran my hand over the shoulders of my shirts. Yep, another one. Fainter, but the same cologne. Carol. The woman who stood at our wedding and raised her glass with, "Thank you, Emily, for unexpectedly entering Jake's life. We always thought he'd end up with someone a little more like him, but I guess you have your ways of convincing." I sat down on the edge of the bed. Well, more like collapsed. Like a sack of suspicion, staring at the floor like the answer might be hiding between the dust bunnies and a scuffed-up sandal. I'm not paranoid. I'm just a grown woman who recognizes a signal when she sees one. Sometimes sabotage isn't loud. It doesn't scream. Sometimes it smells. Residual. Purposeful. Tactical. Carol wanted to plant a seed of doubt, and judging by Jake's reaction, she nearly did. I stood up, walked to the hallway closet, opened the bottom drawer. Old iPhone. Model 6. Cracked screen, busted case. Charged slower than a dying snail, but the camera still worked. It was time. Time to become a stay-at-home spy. Carol thought she was clever. She thought I'd cry, plead, defend myself. She thought she'd win. But I'm not that girl. I'm the quiet storm. and I was about to hit record. The next morning, I texted her, "Carol, Jake and I are out for the day. If you're nearby, could you take a look at the dryer? It's making weird noises again." She responded in 30 seconds. "Of course, sweetie. Always happy to help. Of course. Welcome to the stage. The camera's already rolling." Sometimes you don't need to ask questions to get the truth. You just need to let someone believe they're not being watched. The next morning, I sent Carol a message. "Jake and I are out for the day. If you're nearby, could you stop in? The dryer's making weird noises again." 30 seconds later, she replied, "Of course, sweetie. Always happy to help. Oh, I bet. Just like last time. Help." Jake start questioning the cologne he never wore, and I never sprayed. I could picture her reading the message with a smug little smile, coffee cup in hand, like she was starring in some cheap soap opera where the villain is always too confident in her immunity. Fine, let her come in. The camera was already rolling. Jake really was out, meeting with a contractor across town. I left a little earlier, parked myself in a cafe 3 blocks away, laptop open, earbuds in, eyes on my phone screen. At 11:14, there she was. Carol. Gray coat, neatly styled hair, crossbody purse, business as usual. If you didn't know any better, you'd think she was a sweet grandma coming to feed her granddaughter's cat. She walked in like she owned the place, hung her coat in the hallway closet, slipped off her shoes like she was staying the night. And then it began. First stop, the bedroom. She looked around, listened, then pulled something lacy and pink from her purse. Even without zooming in, I could tell. It was lingerie, panties, bra. Brand new, not my size, definitely not my style. She carefully unfolded the bra and tucked it into the far corner of the closet, then lifted a pillow and slid the panties underneath. No words, no hesitation, like she was shelving a book. Next came the lipstick, bright red. She swiped it across the pillowcase, fast, abrupt, random. It looked exactly like someone had wiped their mouth in a rush. Even I would have fallen for it. Then she grabbed the blanket and ruffled it, rolled around on it a little, literally rolled, like an actress in a bad community theater play. She wrinkled the center, shifted the edges, layered the pillows like someone had just had a good time. I stared at the screen without blinking. It was too much, and at the same time, diabolically smart. This wasn't the work of a clueless woman. This was a performance by someone who knew exactly what she was doing. The kind of mother who sees her son as property. Next came the final touch. The scent. She pulled out a tiny perfume bottle and sprayed it. On the pillows, on the curtains. I swear I could smell it through the screen. Too sweet, too overpowering. Not mine. Definitely not ours. And then for the finale, a condom wrapper. Empty. Tucked halfway under the nightstand, just barely sticking out. Not obvious, but just visible enough, like, "Oh, Jake, I just happened to notice this while I was vacuuming." I'm shocked, too. I sat there in disbelief. That was my bedroom, our home, where I'd scrubbed windows, cleaned floors, picked out curtains, where we'd toasted champagne on New Year's, laughed, fought over paint swatches, and now? A stage for some Lifetime-level drama where I'd been cast as the clueless victim. Once everything was in place, Carol did a walkthrough like a set inspector. Straightened the comforter, nudged the bra slightly into view, subtle but not too subtle, then headed to the kitchen, made herself tea, and started rehearsing, right there, on camera, speaking out loud to no one. "I only stopped in for a minute. I didn't mean to, Jake. Honestly, she asked me not to say anything, but I'm your mother. You deserve to know who you're living with." Pause. Sip of tea. Then a whisper, all tragic and soft. "I thought you'd marry Sarah. She was such a sweet girl." That's when I lost it. I laughed, out loud. The waitress glanced over. I pointed to my screen. "Domestic drama." She nodded like she knew exactly what I meant. I saved the footage. Straight to the cloud. backed it up on a flash drive, and another copy to my email, just in case Jake's mom was secretly moonlighting as a hacker in retirement. I already knew. She'd see this recording, face to face, not behind her back, not whispered. She'd sit across from me. I'd open my laptop, and she could try all she wanted. There'd be no twisting out of it. On screen, Carol was finishing her pastry, calm, serene, triumphant. She kept checking the time. Jake must have been due any minute. She had no idea her little stage production was already saved, backed up and ready for premiere. By the time I reached our house, it was already dark. The windows glowed with that warm, golden light that says home, peace, comfort. But I knew better. Inside, there wasn't peace. Inside, a performance was underway, starring Carol. Her role? The heartbroken mother who accidentally uncovered her daughter-in-law's shame. The script? Thoroughly rehearsed. I slid the key into the lock, the real one, not the spare under the doormat, and stepped inside. Silence. From the kitchen came Carol's voice, calm, gentle even, but beneath that softness, there was steel. I didn't want to tell you, Jake. I just came by to check the dryer, you know, but then I saw it, this lingerie. It's not Emily's, and the smell, the perfume. I'm not accusing her of anything. I just thought you should know. I walked into the kitchen without a word. For a second, it felt like time stopped. Carol sat at the table, her hands clasped around a cup of tea. She looked tragic, perfectly posed for the scene, shoulders slightly hunched, face solemn but composed. In front of her, like evidence at a crime scene, my pillow, marked with a smear of lipstick. Next to it, neatly arranged, panties and a bra. Jake stood near the window, his back to me. When he heard the door, he turned. And Carol went pale, then pink, then pale again, like she'd just been caught red-handed. You could almost feel her fear hanging in the air. Emily, I thought, you said you'd be gone. I was, I said evenly. Now I'm back. Silence. I took off my coat, hung it on the hook, walked to the table and sat across from her. I didn't look at Carol. I looked straight at Jake. Do you want to know where this lingerie came from? I just... Jake looked at me like he was trying to figure out who we were now. What do you think? I asked. That some random woman came here while you were gone, and I didn't notice? He didn't answer. There was no accusation on his face, but there was no defense either. Just doubt. And that's the worst expression you can see on someone you love. I nodded, reached into my bag, pulled out the tablet, unlocked it, hit play. The screen lit up. Our bedroom. Same soft light. On the screen, Carol. She's opening the door, looking around, pulling out lingerie, slipping it under the pillow, smearing lipstick on the pillowcase, spraying perfume, rehearsing her lines. I didn't watch the video. I watched Jake. He didn't look away. Not for a second. His face went pale. His jaw tightened. When the part came where Carol said, I thought you'd marry Sarah, he exhaled sharply and sat down at the table. Carol said nothing, and in her silence she lost. But then she spoke. This isn't true. It's fake. You recorded me? Yes, I said, because I didn't know how else to protect myself. You set me up. You set yourself up, I replied. All I did was hit record. The rest is all you. She turned to Jake. Son, I just wanted you to see the truth. I saw it, Jake said. Thank you. Quiet. No yelling. But there was something new in his voice. Something final. Carol stood up, picked up her cup, set it in the sink slowly, as if stalling for time. Then she turned. So now you believe her over me? Jake looked right at her. I believe what I see. Pause. And you know what? I don't want you coming here when we're not home. Carol flinched. What? The key under the doormat won't be there anymore, he added, If you want to come over, call first. Ask. You're kicking me out? I'm setting boundaries, he said. Boundaries we should have set a long time ago. She stood at the door. For the first time, I saw her not just thrown off, but truly broken. The mask was gone. All that was left was a woman who'd lost. You'll regret this, she muttered. One day, you'll see who you chose. I smiled. Not mean, just steady. He already knows. She didn't slam the door. She just left. Quietly. And the house was quiet too. Really quiet. I sat back down. Not right away. First, I walked around the room, made sure nothing smelled like her perfume anymore. Only then did I sit next to Jake. He was still staring at the table. I'm sorry, he said suddenly. I shouldn't have doubted you. Doubt is normal, I said. When someone lies with that kind of face, it's hard not to believe. I never thought my mom would be capable of this. I placed my hand on his. I know. We sat there, for a long time, just silent. And in that silence, there was no heaviness. There was something else. Freedom. Freedom from the performance that had gone on for far too long. 6 days passed. 6 calm, quiet, oddly balanced days. No walls shaking from passive-aggressive tension. No sticky notes with sweet little tips. The pillows stayed fluffed. The bed remained smooth. The closet untouched. Carol didn't come by. Didn't call. Didn't text. Not me. Not Jake. The first 2 days felt tense. Like the hurricane had passed, but you still listened, just in case it circled back. But then, silence. And in that silence, I realized something. Her absence was a gift. Jake and I never spoke of that evening again. Some things don't need words. Words just get in the way. He just showed up. Fully. For real. The small moments where I used to sense distance? Gone. He laughed more. Asked how my day was. Sometimes I caught him looking at me. Warm, steady, present. Like he was relearning how to trust and choosing to do it. One evening, he pulled out a bottle of white wine and 2 glasses, sat down on the couch and said, So, shall we rewatch Mom's big debut? I laughed. Only if you promise not to cry during the lipstick scene. I'll hold it together, he nodded, as long as you roll credits, based on a true story. We rewatched the whole video, but this time it wasn't evidence. It was comedy. I skipped to her most theatrical moments, dramatic sips of tea, deep sighs, whispered rehearsals. We laughed. Really laughed. Jake kept chiming in. She's clearly been practicing this for years. Did you see her spray the perfume 5 times? That's commitment. You know, if it wasn't on video, I think I might have actually believed her. He trailed off. I looked at him but stayed silent. He exhaled, then said, Thank you. For not yelling. For not arguing. For just showing me. I simply placed my hand over his. No words needed. A day later, I grabbed my laptop and made a short edit of the best moments. I added a caption. When your mother-in-law thinks she's directing a Netflix drama. Picked a light, slightly chaotic tune from TikTok's music library, something circusy. At first, I just wanted to save it for myself, but Jake said, Post it. Let the world see what moms are capable of when you marry the wrong woman. So I posted it. No names, no locations, no close-up faces, no slander, just the raw footage, lightly trimmed, never altered. First day? Nothing. Second day? 1,000 views. Third day? 30,000. Then, boom. By day 6, the video had 1.5 million views. Comments poured in by the minute. This is my mother-in-law, 100%. Fake. No one's this insane. Waiting for part 2. I would have dumped the tea on her head. Kicking her out is too soft. I'd wallpaper the guest room with her selfies. Queen of chaos. I couldn't keep up with the comments, but inside, there was this quiet, satisfied yes. Not revenge. Release. One evening, I got a text from Jake. Guess what? Mom saw the video. I froze. Then he followed up. My sister showed her. She was silent for 3 minutes, then said, "That's not me. But the lingerie's cute." I burst out laughing, so loud the whole house echoed. 5 minutes later, Jake walked in holding a frozen pizza box and said, "You're not going to believe this." "I believe nothing anymore," I grinned. "She still thinks she didn't do anything wrong." "Of course not. We're the ones who violated the sacred doormat key access code." He chuckled, shoved the pizza into the oven and asked, "Hey, could she, sue you?" I shrugged. "For what? For showing up uninvited and staging a soap opera in our bedroom?" "Well, let her prove in the comments it was her. Good luck with that." A few more days passed. We just lived. No drama, no cameras, no supervision, just life. Sometimes Jake would joke, "We should have made a series. Mom versus Reality, Episode 2, The Frying Pan of Truth." I'd reply, "Only if Episode 3 ends with her hiding her ex-daughter-in-law's ice cream in our freezer." One evening I was home alone, sat by the window with a glass of wine. Outside, silence. Inside, same. And I thought, some wars end with gunshots, some with court filings, and some with a disabled camera and a removed doormat key. Carol never came back, not uninvited anyway. On holidays, yes, with a late gift and eyes that never looked above her teacup. But she never entered this home again without a call, an invitation, a request, and I never looked over my shoulder again. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment below. What do you think? Did the main character do the right thing? And how would you have reacted in her place? Thanks for being with us. See you in the next story.